Talk to him.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Whether the winters were left in the cold. Code language conversation today is about the path of least resistance. All right, so we're gonna tap in and look up the definition of that, because I believe this is a psychology term. So I've actually studied this before, but it's been a minute, so let's tap back in together. All right, y'all. The path of least resistance refers to choosing the easiest or most convenient option in a given situation, often without considering the potential long-term consequences or whether it's the most effective path. It's a concept frequently used in various contexts, from physics and psychology to personal development and decision-making. So I'm going to read this one more time. The path of least resistance refers to choosing the easiest or most convenient option in a given situation, often without considering the potential long-term consequences or whether it's the most effective path. So tell me something, chat. Give me an example of what the path of least resistance. Let's try to find a real-time example of somebody taking, or what would be a situation where you have a path of least resistance versus a path that may be better for you long-term, but seems to be the more cumbersome of your choices, right? I'm trying to think of a real-time example where this could be like a real thing, because the path of least resistance, when I think about it, it says the easiest or most convenient option in a given situation. So what would that be? Is that a situation where, but the long-term consequences may not add up? I'm trying to think where you could take an option that's convenient now, but has long-term ramifications that aren't necessarily conducive to the life or the future that you see for yourself. I'm trying to think of what that looks like in a real-time example. I'm having a hard time coming up with something, chat. Y'all help me out with this one. I think it's a great term, but I want to make it, more real versus just covering the definition.
Classic.
Would the path of least resistance be like, for example, if there's an athlete and let's use soccer. If you got an athlete and they able to go play in like a lesser league, but they could be like a star player and make decent money, in that lesser league, but their ability to go up into like a bigger league and make the big Cristiano Ronaldo type bread and all of that, their ability to go from that league, the decent league that they can get access to right now, right away, and get some cool money, it inhibits or prohibits, it stops them from being able to, eventually upgrade themselves into a bigger league and a bigger pay over the span of their career, right? So that would be a path of least resistance that you take. Well, right now, this seems like a good decision. 10 years from now, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Whereas they may have an option that seems a little more inconvenient, where they go to the big league, but maybe sit the bench for a couple years and try to earn their way, or hope for an injury so they get an opportunity to show what they can do. And then if they're able to maximize on that, then they start seeing the big dollars and in the biggest league and this, that, and the third, and they can really, really, really win. You know what I mean? That's just an example that I'm trying to come up with off the top of my head where the path of least resistance may apply. Miles Batchelor said path of least resistance or risk versus reward. Is that similar? I think it is. I think they coincide. I think they tie in. Yeah, sometimes the easiest road isn't necessarily the one with the most gold at the end of it. You know what I mean? It don't have the biggest pot of gold at the end of it. You can walk it, you can be cool on your journey and stuff like that, but at the same time, is the payoff really worth it? It's almost like another example. You start building a company, right? You build a company, and then your first evaluation come in once your company is profitable, and somebody comes in and tries to buy your company from you for, let's say, $20 million, right? They want to buy it for $20 million. They don't want to give you any equity. They don't want to give you any equity in the company, which means that essentially you'd be selling this company completely away. You're no longer a partial owner. You don't have stock, nothing, but they're going to give you 20 million payout cash. For a lot of people, that sound like the lick. Okay, I only been building this company for a few years. We finally got an eval. They want to give me 20 M's. I ain't never touched that. Let me get that. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, a better option may be something where you say, nah, if y'all offering me 20, my company got to be worth at least 200. You know what I'm saying? If y'all offering me 20 cash to get me out the way and take over, my business got to be worth 200, 300, 400. So I'm going to keep ownership. I'm going to wait till I get 2, 3 more evals, 5, 6, 7, 10 years from now. And now when y'all try to buy my company from me, I might sell it because that 20 M's turned into 500 M's. Now we talking half a B. And I'm gonna play hardball with you because I took the road less traveled instead of the path of least resistance. I'm gonna play hardball with you. I need 500 million and I need to keep 15% of my company, right? I'm still gonna be a partial owner. I may not be majority, I may not pull all the strings, but I still want to keep some ownership. I want this to pay me forever, the lump sum and some kickback. You know what I'm saying? So I would think that's thank you, Miles, for helping me bring it home. But I think that that's a good example as well, where you could take the path of least resistance, but the payout really isn't what you're looking for, versus you being able to take the road less traveled or the road that seems to be a bit more cumbersome, but you know at the end of that is some shit over there. Like you really gonna be good. You're gonna be straight. I think another thing that could probably tie into this conversation, but we'll do a separate code language on it, would be foresight. Because in these examples that I'm able to come up with for the path of least resistance, you have to kind of exercise foresight to know which decision is probably going to be the most beneficial. You know, foresight, circumstances, etc., desires, right? What do you want for your life? Like for somebody, that quick little 20 million right now, they might want to take that, pay their taxes, and go somewhere where the cost of living is cheap and chill and just retire immediately. And that may be it for them. They don't care about the 500 10 years from now, you know, and if that's the decision they want to make, cool. But somebody with some foresight who like, damn, I could set myself up, or I could set myself, my kids, and they kids up. You know, which decision is it that you really want to make? Which decision is it that's going to be the most beneficial or the best one for you? You know what I mean? And so I think it's an interesting conversation to have. And I think I don't know if there's a wrong answer, you know, it's more so about preference. It's about understanding. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your goals, your ambition, etc. But it's definitely an interesting conversation on the path of least resistance. Bro said, is the path of least resistance or risk versus reward? Is that similar? Yeah, it ties in for sure. Very close, very closely related. It's like cousins. But yeah, I say it all the time. Like the path of least resistance isn't always necessarily the best one, just because you don't really gain much on that. Like if you show me a person who's had a smooth road, I'll show you a weak person. You show me a person who's had hurdles, bumps and bruises, you know, walls in their way, different things, obstacles, things they had to get around, overcome, you know, undercome, all types of things. You know, people who had to go through some shit. I'm gonna show you a person that's fortified. I'm gonna show you a person who understands certain things about themselves. They know. It's just like if you been in 10 fights in your life and you won all 10 fights and you never fought anybody who could actually beat you too. So you just dog walk everybody, versus if you got into a fight with that one person who was formidable and even to you. Let's say one person been in 10 fights and they fought 10 people who never had a chance of winning. They just scraped them. That person is 10-0 and don't know if they could fight. They don't know. They've been on the path of least resistance, and have they had success? Yes. But do they know what they're capable of? Do they know that they can take a punch? Well, no, they haven't been hit, right? Versus somebody who been in 3 fights, but all 3 fights was with people who was fighting back. You know what I'm saying? And so you might be 2-1. You might have took an L or something like that, but you know certain things about yourself that the person on the path of least resistance doesn't know about themselves. He hasn't had his chin checked. Whereas, you know, you can take a clean shot and, you know, shake it off and keep going. This person knows none of that. They don't know if they got a glass chin or not because it ain't been tested. You know what I'm saying? They don't know if they got solid defense or not because they was fighting people who were scared before they started, right? Versus somebody who was in there with another gorilla. Like, if you trying to take my head off, I'm trying to take yours off. We gonna see what's what. There's certain things you're gonna learn about yourself in those situations. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the path of least resistance is the best one for me, in my opinion. But I couldn't fault somebody for taking it. It really boils down to preference. I don't like using right or wrong, especially not if we talking about grown folks. But let me know what y'all think about that, chat. I definitely would love to hear what y'all got to say in the comments on the rewatch, and even, you know, just now, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's the code language today. Let me read it one more time in closing. The path of least resistance refers to choosing the easiest or most convenient option in a given situation, often without considering the potential long-term consequences or whether it's the most effective path. It's a concept frequently used in various contexts, from physics and psychology to personal development and decision-making. The path of least resistance. Yes, Lord. If you like what you just saw, support the channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, and jump in the comments. Talk to me so we could crack these codes. If you want to support the channel monetarily, go to my website and cop some merch, www.theclassiccodes.com. Or you can shoot me a Cash App. Either way, stick to the codes. Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Weathered the winters when left in the cold. Harden my heart and now harden the flow.